Chapter 4: Strange Kingdom. King Leo rode his carriage out to the ford of Green River where the primitives were camping, and he met with the square head chief named Bata. King Leo was a little annoyed Beta showed little respect. His little brother, Aner, was worse. Leo knew they has a different way of doing things and gave them the benefit of the doubt. The two brothers spoke the language of the peninsula just with a strong accent. Aner would not even stop eating his bread to speak to the king, and neither would stand and just loafed around uninterested. "How long will you be camping here?" Leo asked the primitive chief. King Leo had dark bushy eyebrows and intense blue eyes. He wore his leather crown bejeweled with sapphires. He left his gold crown with rubies and diamonds. He wanted to come across as humble. "A few moons," Bata said as he chewed on a piece of meat. "King." Leo's men brought a bull to the squarehead's camp and allowed the primitives to slit its throat and butcher it themselves. A young warrior got blood sprayed all over his face and chest, and the others screamed in triumph. Leo was disgusted. Sir Brian mumbled to Leo, "It's not like they hunted it in the woods." The squareheads were used to hunting game. Being given a domesticated animal to kill was unusual to them. They did smoke much of the meat, and they roasted pieces on skewers. The women thanked them, but the men had too much pride. King Leo worried they would stay longer than a few moons. How would he feed them? Prince Dirk was there too. "We should give them a week to figure out where to go," he said. "It may take longer for the valley to dry up," Sir Brian said. "They could move to the steppes," King Leo added. "There's not enough game in the forest to support them. There isn't enough fish either." The squareheads erected yurts made of animal skins, and much of their clothing was made of skins too. Beta's coat was made of brown bear, and he wore a bear claw necklace around his thick neck. He had shoulder-length red hair in braids, and his teeth were big and square. He had a lot of prognathism and a sloping forehead. They all had heavy brow ridges too, but their bodies were thick and robust. It was hard to distinguish between sexes. The women were masculine and not attractive. They called normal people roundheads, which seemed appropriate. Leo wasn't afraid of them attacking. Their weapons were primitive. They had copper knives and spearheads and had no iron or steel. They also had no armor. Leo noticed a few wooden shields, and the chief brothers had bronze half-helms. "We should just kick these bastards out of here." "I don't like this at all," Dirk said. Dirk had a cleft palate, and he was always insecure about it. Leo thought it made him cold sometimes. "Have a little more empathy, son," Leo said with a tight grin. Leo didn't like it either, but there were children and babies. Infants were on their mother's teats. The primitive squareheads used to live up near the crag where the castle now stands, but King Leo's great-great-great-grandfather defeated them in battle and banished them to the valley below. That is part of the reason they acted entitled, Leo thought. The squareheads ate all their food, even though King Leo encouraged them to ration what they had. Leo confiscated a dozen of the serfs' bowls and drained a portion of the grain silo to make bread for the ungrateful squareheads. The serfs became irate, especially when they stole a few kegs of ale. "We all have to make sacrifices," King Leo said to a crowd of angry serfs. Samuel found himself in the basement of the longhouse. The ceiling was low, and he hoped there were no rats. He saw mice and spiders. Samuel was 13 and starting to figure out who he was. The basement was lit by beeswax candles and little windows. Youngsters packed in the crawl space, shoulder to shoulder, to hear Agnes's words. This was a secret assembly because King Leo had no proxy there to listen. Samuel was risking being thrown in the dungeon, but if he didn't go, the Red Scarfs would beat him up or hurt his little sister, Dolores. The Red Scarfs were the military arm of the youngsters. They wore red scarves and bullied others to join their cause. The youngsters were the serfs who supported the revolution. Agnes stood at a podium and hammered a mullet as she spoke. She shook her curly red hair around. She wore a white floral dress. "Youngsters, I am here for you." She wrapped the mallet like a woodpecker and shook her head around. "That bastard in the castle acts like he cares about us, but he does not." She pounded the mallet, and the youngsters cheered. Samuel saw a red scarf study him, and he decided to cheer louder. He didn't want to risk getting his nose busted because he didn't cheer loud enough. Now is the time to strike. He is not strong, he is weak. She shouted Samuel wanted to find the witch and tell her about the meeting.